Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 31st, 2026 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I use to guide virtually every decision I make. With this in mind, try that again. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have worked for literally thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, I do want to tip my hat to Storm, as Storm is our primary moderator. He usually hides in the back, making sure tech works. And rest assured with me, that can be a challenge. We had fun today with that already. That said, he also keeps an eye on problem children. So if anybody does come in and try and be a problem, they're outside before they become a serious one. Okay. Now, scrolling down here, I also want to say thank you very much to Kira Ava, another moderator. Also, my wife, editor-in-chief, and a whole pile of other things. Okay, she is here to help the conversation keep going and make sure if I miss a question, she spots it, which is really cute when you think she's 100% blind. But on that note, there's a staggering number of people we run into. We go, yeah, my wife is 100% blind, and they talk louder to make sure that she can hear them. I'm not quite certain of the connection yet, but what the heck. And we scroll down here, and okay, that is our moderators that have shown up for the moment. Okay, now coming in with the gold is Eternity Eternal. How you doing, Eternity? Glad to see you. And then we have popping in behind. We have, where are we? Scroll down. And we have Operation Shutdown. My apologies. M. Levitt. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, M. The reality of it is, if you haven't got it already, and this is literally for you, M, we just got Positive Perspectives January 2026 out today. But if you're interested in getting it, we require an email address. That can be provided through the link at the top of the stream. Okay, where it says buymeacoffee.com/innervoicej. Okay, and we'll be happy to get it out to you right away as soon as the stream is over. Now, we then have Operation Shutdown coming in with the bronze. How you doing, Operation? Glad you could join us. Now, today we are going to be looking at crop circles of purpose. I know I'm not going to show you a bunch of pictures of crop circles. Okay, in all fairness, I've seen them from orbit, and that's pretty much where that ends. I see very few pictures of them because, frankly, I don't look. But I will tell you, I've seen some that literally, I remember one in particular, it shows a jump point, as in people come into the Sol system, into our star system, and they turn around, and what they've done is tagged Earth with a crop circle, okay, in order to tell other passersby where the jump point is to get out of the sector. Now, humans have a little problem. We don't have jump drives yet. Okay, so it's kind of like putting a highway bypass for a bicycle. It's a cute thought, but you're not going to make it very well. Crop circles have a number of different purposes. One of them is simply relaying information about the surrounding area. Sometimes it's about planetary bodies that are coming in, or complications that may be there because of gravitational fluctuations on a given path. And yes, you are right. Like, some of the scientists have looked at and gone, this doesn't make any sense. That's because lo and behold, we have some people in starships that still do graffiti. AKA, let's just mark this spot and say we've been here. It's a weird setup, certainly, but as I've mentioned before, there are dozens of different species coming through here, and they've all got similar experiences like humans. You've still got people from all walks of life there. They're doing bizarre things, but the crop circles themselves, most of them are information. Okay, most of the crop circles are literally meant so that people can so that the passersby can spot them, get an idea of the terrain, of what's going on in that area, as to whether it's a safe place to land or not, this sort of thing. Okay, it's not as complicated as you might think. Although, in all fairness, if you believe it's really complicated, you can bet your bottom dollar it will be. Now I'm just scrolling down to see if I missed anything, because that's kind of an important factor.
Oh, looks like Renee just came in.
Oh, did Renee just come in? There's Eternity.
Down at the very bottom.
Oh, it hasn't shown. Oh, there we are. And Renee, you are in, I believe. Yeah, you're in with honorable mention. I'm glad you liked the topic there, Renee. Glad to see you aboard. The neat part with crop circles is so many scientists are looking for some sort of really complicated explanation or complicated setup. Now, here's the thing. Yes, there are variations in the electromagnetic field and gravitational impact. It's because these guys use, depending on which ship is coming by, they use different types of energy to flatten it out, to flatten the circles out. And here's the other thing that humans don't see very well. Okay, up in the mountains, okay, on top of the actual hardpack, not on top of soft snow, but way up on the peak where you have up on the glaciers. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, up on the glaciers, you will see discolored in the think then speak. Up on the glaciers, there are other. We'll call them crop circles because they're used for the same purpose, but they're done in different lighting. It's a different photonic impact. Okay, now humans humans technology tends to look at gravitational impact or some sort of energy wave, usually either radionic or radiation. Okay, but up on the ice pan, on the ice flows, they use photonic. Okay, they use photonic and magnetic, which humans aren't scanning for. Okay, this could open a lot of questions, a lot of doors. But the reality is, I personally am not a scientist, and I'm really, frankly, not much of anybody in the bigger scheme of things. So, of course, I mentioned something like this. Odds are they're going to ignore it. Okay, because how could I know? I'm not one of the best educated people. As a matter of fact, my education kind of ended with becoming really good at ping pong in my second year of college. Needless to say, I didn't actually get good grades. On the other hand, I enjoyed it. Now, that said, when we start looking at crop circles, understand they use some of these symbols that they're using. It's not just where they're located. Okay, it's the distance and the angle between the different sigils. Okay, and you got to look at the big sigils, not only under themselves. Okay, but when you start looking at them and compare their location to other crop circles, okay, proximity has an impact because that's where they take a word. Picture, if you will, and I've seen mathematical geniuses do this on an 8x8 square. Okay, where they pop numbers in all over the place. Cowie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Where they pop numbers in all over the place on an 8x8 grid, and they get all the numbers to add up. Well, if you start taking a look at the crop circles on a 12x12 grid, okay, and yeah, I did say 12x12. They don't see the odds, and the thing is, it depends on the species, whether you're using 12x12, 8x8, 4x4, each one of them. Understand something very important here. Okay. And Cowie, you are absolutely correct. Some of the crop circles are simply they are simply star charts from another location. Okay. Somewhere in those crop circles, though, you'll find an identifier. Well, you may not. There is an identifier that tells you what sector that chart is from. Okay. Quite often it's like, okay, this is our home. Come and visit us. Or this is our home. Come on over. We require more slaves. One of the neat little things we got to look at is, again, humans are looking at crop circles as a two-dimensional thing. Okay, but you got to look at the depth of the impacts, because crop circles, more often than not, are marked in three-dimensional, meaning parts of them will be a fraction lower than other parts, and you have to look at that as well. So it's not as big, it's not as simple a thing as people are thinking. Okay, and yeah, I realize I am not the most educated individual. Okay, sometimes I think I went out of my way to avoid it. But this is why I turn around and go, I'm not that interested. I'm not that interested in corroborating or debating what other people have found, because of one little detail. Most of the research that I've discovered, and this is why I don't do it, I'll leave it to you guys. Most of the time when I go to do research, I find the researchers are regurgitating information somebody else did. Okay, my information comes from firsthand. This is one of the reasons why I look at things. This is why I look at things and go, okay, here's what I'm seeing. Now you go and do your own research. And yes, to that end, we are looking at a number of things coming up. Okay, Operation, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I don't think you were in. Oh, you were in earlier. My apologies. Actually, I think you came in just a little while ago.
Yeah, you mentioned, I believe, he had the bronze.
Yeah, I've got good memories, just really short. And besides that, in case you hadn't noticed, my mouth goes into gear, my brain catches up sometime later. Which is, well, it does create some interesting conversations. What we have to realize is that when we're looking at crop circles, it's not just the circles. Humans call them crop circles. Okay. They are in essence the interstellar email or interstellar tagging. Let's mark the side of that mountain range so the people that come in know we've been here or know what's in the neighborhood. Okay, and yes, there are spots. Then, because of the various different ways of making crop circles, we see the one, humans see the ones that are pushed down in wheat fields. Okay, rest assured, those are not hiding secret information. If you want secret information, don't do it in brilliant, bright felt pen in the middle of an open field. Put it someplace where the locals aren't likely to get it. Okay, that said, there are no plans in any of the crop circles I've been shown, okay, that are indicating some sort of interstellar invasion, okay, or for that matter, any sort of interstellar party. One of the neat things about the whole 9 yards is when you start realizing that crop circles are simply another method of communication. This is when you start figuring out how things can work. Now, something else about the crop circles, especially the ones in the upper ranges, okay, as in on the glaciers, is there is information there that is detailing, if you figure out what language it is, that does detail some of the medicinal benefits available on this planet. And yes, Earth has plants and animals here and minerals and what have you that are medicinally beneficial to other species. Oh, yeah, Callie goes, like I learned, using a $20 laser from Amazon did attract a UFO. Here's a question for you. Did you manage to actually, number one, I got to ask just because I'm nosy. It attracted the UFO. Did you manage to pull an abduction out of the deal? Or contact, aside from it being up there? Because I'm going to posit something for you. Okay, and this is positing it for everybody. When you're staring at the sky and you're shining a laser in the sky, your attention is directly attuned to that kind of event. Okay, now, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that lasers don't work, but I will tell you if you're concentrating on it, you're more likely to see what's already up there. And this is why I say, when you start looking at the sky, okay, watch for patterns. Watch for stars going out and winking out of existence and then back in. Because if something solid passes between you and a star, okay, and it's doing it in sequence, odds are you got a UFO that's up there. Primarily because UFO means unidentified flying object. You don't know what it is, it's a UFO. In all fairness, it could be a bat, but it's still flying, it's still unidentified. Okay, but I will tell you, the number of people that I talk to, that, it's wonderful. I managed to see a UFO. This does not mean you necessarily saw an alien. Okay, and yes, I will tell you right now, in your case, Callie, first instinct says you did. I don't know what species, I don't have enough information to work with. Where are we? Oh, Callie goes, something ran through my house. It looked like a 7-foot iguana. 2 nights later, believe it or not. That does not shock me at all. Okay. Come to think of it, where is... Whoop. Trying to get a binder out of the way here so I can actually get my notepad. Okay. I want to go looking for that one because I came across it the other day. I was actually going through my notes the other day and found a couple more what we call reptilian, simply because of the fact they look like Terran reptiles. And I was just going through it yesterday or the day before, I think. Of course, time for me is a bit sketchy at best. Farrad, how you doing? Long time no see. Glad you could join us tonight. The neat thing with crop circles is they are very often you'll find that other UFOs will stop by them to take a look. Okay, because what we are talking about is interstellar mail. Okay, or interstellar billboards. I came through, this is what I saw, and they carry on. But you got to remember, there are things now, just like the Udina, who write in 3-dimensional, crop circles work in much the same way in a lot of ways. Okay, and what I mean by that You know, um, you know, when you're looking at crop circles, humans see the level on the ground. They don't tend to see the crops or you see a crop. Humans call it a circle. Crop circles are more often than not a crop globe, okay, or a crop bubble, if you will, okay, because they are literally printed above the earth, on Earth's surface, and below the earth, if you've got the right equipment to read it. Okay, you're talking about molecular modification. Okay, and it's very easy to do once the technology gets there, and humans will eventually get to that point. Okay, but they are a lot more complicated and a lot more intricate than you might think. It's very much like when we take a look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs. They are not just hieroglyphics on that space. You know, one of the fun things about the crop circles and all the alien communication that we get is humans have a limited thought process. That's not an insult to humans. Rest assured, if I wanted to insult humans, I got a lot more to work with. Okay. Fortunately, I got a lot more to work with a lot of species. But crop circles themselves are an entire language unto itself. You know, but like I said, what you got to look at is not just the surface tension, but if you look at the surface tension and extrapolate further, you get to see the rest of it. Surface, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And where are we here? You know, the nice part about it is I've been looking at the whole concept of crop circles for quite literally, well, this lifetime, the concept I've been looking at for decades. Okay, I don't research, as in I don't go looking at the different ones, at least not the way you do. Okay, I go looking at them in another fashion. And the neat part about it is there is a pattern to the communication lines. The other thing that humans are overlooking is they're not taking a look. You know, the other thing, humans are not taking a look at temporal differentiation. What is the time difference between when this crop circle was printed and that crop circle was overlaid? Okay, this is the thing people aren't looking at. Not to mention, much like humans in special forces and what have you, if they're trying to sneak or trying to pass a hidden message, or trying to travel over, or trying to conceal the numbers, they will walk in the same footsteps. Well, crop circles are done the same way. Many times you'll find one crop circle laid atop another. Okay, and then you take a look at the depths and what have you. This is not just a simple method of, oh, look, somebody's writing on our wall. Okay, this is a way that they communicate in delayed interstellar. Okay, i.e., I'll leave a message here. He who finds it gets to find, what is it called? There's something, what the heck are they called now? There's something in different movies that people talk about where you find this funny little thing inside a modern day Terran movie.
Oh, Easter eggs.
There we are. Thank you very much there, Kira. You know, even with crop circles, there are, if you will, hidden Easter eggs that the off-worlders find. And I know this sounds it sounds like we're talking about a game here. And sometimes, and some of them are. Okay, because you got to remember, they have the same outlooks, the same ideas as many humans do. Humans are a lot more creatively shall we say, instigated, but humans have logically compromised themselves and limited their own imagination. The off-worlders don't worry about that. They worry about the imagination that humans innately have. And yeah, in case you haven't pieced it together, some of those crop circles are literally designed to warn off-worlders away from that area. Okay, because some humans, quite a lot of them really, have a tendency of going, "Oh, it's a alien thing. I don't understand it. Let's shoot it and then see if it's friendly." I've never understood the logic behind that. But I do see it a lot. The neat part about it is that with the crop circles, they are something that is very involved, very intricately important. Okay, and once humans realize, so maybe one of the scientists that's looking at the crop circles will catch hold of this video and start looking at the different forms of energy, not the least of which is gravimetric. They're already looking at the gravitational or at the density, the soil density, but what they're not looking at much is soil molecular modification, because inside the modified soil samples, they'll find other information that doesn't add up. It'll add up fine for off-worlders, even without doing a soil sample. Of course, they'll check it from orbit. It's a whole lot easier than coming all the way down. I mean, can you picture bringing a mothership down into the heart of the Sahara Desert just to check out a sample on moving sand? This is not fun. Well, some people would find it fun. So I'm looking at this situation going, okay, crop circles themselves, we can learn a lot from. Okay, but it has to do with the spacing between the lines and what have you. The pattern of lines. It's simply a form, if you will, of Morse code or semaphore or a combination of them. Okay, but it has to do with the distance, the depth, and the configuration that gets lined up. Okay, just like when you take a look at Stonehenge. Yes, Stonehenge was lined up. What do we got? Oh, operations going, Keith. Are there crop circles on other planets? The short answer is yes. Okay, and if you go to a place like the reticulan homeworld, okay, their crop circles are done more in forest than they are on the open plain. Something to do with the fact that they've got more forest than open plain. But yeah, absolutely there are. Okay, and they serve the same purpose still. The neat part about it is there are ways, once you understand them, there are ways to be able to piece together, who actually posted the crop circle. But we got to stop thinking in terms of two-dimensional. Okay, they work in three-dimensional. And if you consider time, and I'm not talking time travel, I am talking time. If you consider time another measurable dimension, not a dimension of existence, but measurable, as in height, weight, width, or height, width, depth, and temporal displacement.
Looks like we have somebody, Unity's Arc, who's just came in to say hello.
Unity, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Things are starting to move here, which I'm quite happy with. The reality is, and Unity, since you're new here, a couple of things. In case you haven't picked it up before, absolutely, if you've got a question, pop it into the chat room in all caps so I can find the thing. Okay, my eyesight doesn't work as well as I'd like. So I will do what I can. And of course, Kira here behind me does have a tendency of keeping a better eye out for them. The comical part is she's 100% blind and sees more than I do most of the time. Now, where are we here? Oh, Surface Planet is going, off-worlders look at microsoil samples. Yes, they absolutely do. Okay, and then because they can pick up more information with a smaller sample, they don't have to have big chunks of information. Quite often, they will pick it up based on literally just a few grains. Unity goes, what's the connection between Freemasons and between Freemasons and aliens? That depends on the alien. Okay, but let's be clear about one thing. We are not talking about a global interaction. Okay, Freemasons are a whole different ballgame. Yes, they've got information that many people don't have, but we are not talking about a collaboration. Okay, sometimes the Freemasons are the ones the off-worlders connect with because they've got more information than what many other humans do. But we are still talking about the Galactic Consortium still has absolute rock-solid protocols. And no, the Freemasons do not get a free pass. Okay, it's kind of like the Illuminati don't get a free pass on things either. But some of the Freemasons look at things that most humans don't look at. Okay, they look at things on a much more esoteric level, which is not a bad idea. Okay, but I'm not, from that standpoint, you really don't have anything to worry about from that end. But there is some interaction depending on what the off-worlders are looking for. Now, there's no doubt there are members of the Freemasonry that would love to control what the off-worlders are up to. Mind you, you think about it, there's a lot of people in different governments and different independent circles that would love to know what they're up to. Okay, and most of the time, and the Freemasons are very much like other people. They have a tendency of looking what is the worst case scenario that these off-worlders are coming here for. And they are looking for things like, are these crop circles indicative of a problem? And, the funny part is they're looking down the wrong road. Okay, is there information there? Certainly. Just not as complicated as people are thinking. But, Unity, that is actually a really good question. And one of the things that I'm looking at is I go on instinct. 90% of what I do is based on either instinct or past life memory or firsthand experience. This is why I say I don't research. I come across information, certainly. Okay, most of it's firsthand, which is a little bit off kilter on occasion, but hey, what the heck. The other thing with crop circles is I take a look at them, and this is something that just dawned on me when you start looking at temporal modification or overlay. Picture, if you will, if you take a look at the really big scale, okay, Earth rotates at a certain level. Now, when you're doing crop circle writing, okay, you put a letter here, you wait for the planet to roll around, you put another letter in line, wait for it to come around, you might get the third one in between and get the final picture. Okay, this, humans have tried to really heavily oversimplify what the crop circles are for. It's kind of like looking at aliens going, oh, we don't know who you are, so you're trying to conquer us. This is, in my opinion, fear-mongering at its finest. Okay, rest assured, mankind is not in any danger of being overrun by off-worlders. Way too many safeguards in place. And even the ancient races, the ones that are living on Earth, that have settled in Hollow Earth, or deeper in Inner Earth, are not looking at reclaiming the surface. Okay, mankind has made one royal tangled mess of it. The other thing that you'll find is sometimes there is a reason for putting a crop circle right where they put it, because the shockwave, the energetic shockwave of them putting it there, can send a signal out across the Earth. Okay, not necessarily all the way around it. Given the curve, more often than not, it just goes out on a static plane. But when they put the impact there, it sends a message. It can send a message out, passing information on to energy sensitive entities. Okay, and yes, some of us, some of you, are energetically sensitive. Matter of fact, if you ever get to go to a crop circle, and I mean physically go there, you'll be in really good shape. Or you could have an experience that is, to say the least, a little different. Yeah, Unity goes, I guess that's why they're radioactive. Ultimately, yes. Okay, but we got to remember that all radioactivity is not bad. If you've ever heard the term, everything in moderation, radioactivity is, in certain circumstances, beneficial for humans and other life forms for that matter. Now, I'm looking at this, Services made a comment. That isn't the question. I am curious which question you're sitting on there, Surface. Because the funny part about it is so many people, and this is not meant targeting anybody. I talk to so many people that go, I should have asked this, but I didn't want to seem out of line. But so many people share the same questions, okay, that they get edgy trying to ask. I don't look down on people. Well, I do. And this isn't often, like I look down on my wife all the time. Well, most of the time. But of course, I'm taller than she is, so I don't get options. Okay, at least not if I want to look at her. But when we're looking at crop circles, there are a lot of different purposes. It's kind of like when you look at a book, when you look at different types of writings. Okay, there's all kinds of different reasons people write letters, books, songs. The array is insane. Okay, crop circles are no different. You take a look at, and you're gonna love this one. Let's go around the other circle, and we go to Stonehenge. Not only was it aligned to the stars regarding astrology, it's a landing pad. You take care, Unity. Thanks for dropping in, and hope to see you again soon. The reality is, when we look at crop circles, there are a lot of things we can learn, but you gotta open your mind up a little more to the extended purpose of them. Okay, they are researchers, remember. So quite often, one of the other things you'll see is communication lines where it literally boils down to, we're working on this. Are you interested in cooperating in a joint research? And yes, many of these different species do get along well enough to work with. Okay, in all fairness, many of them would quite readily work with humans if humans weren't quite as, shall we say, primitively aggressive as what they are. The crop circles are one of these things, when you take a look at them, if you're energetically sensitive, you can pick up a lot of energy just by walking near them. Okay, and that may trigger all kinds of things, not the least of which is an enhancement to your own higher senses. You know, one of the other things I look at with the crop circles, and I do not have a bunch of pictures of them, so I haven't done any of the technological, let's take a picture of this one and let's overlay it and see what we come up with. If you're my age, we used to have a stunt where you take onion paper and you'd draw part of a picture. You do this in 3 or 4 layers, lay them on top of each other to get the whole image. Okay, this can be done with some of the crop circles, not all of them. Okay, because you got to remember, we are not dealing with only one purpose for putting them there. Okay, now where am I sitting here? Oh, look at that. I was looking at the time here. Now, again, guys, if you've got questions, don't be hesitant to ask. Surface. Galactic AI. It's cute. You know, when you look at the Xenon, they are what you would consider, I suspect, galactic AI. They are a robot. They are a mechanical robot. But the neat part there is they're not interested in communicating, in laying down crop circles and what have you. They will take soil samples and that sort of thing. But they are not, you got to remember, galactic AI and human AI are 2 very different things because they really are independent thinkers. And I'll tell you, it took a lot of discussion with them for them to finally figure out that wiping out all of the bionomes was a bad idea, since they rely on the creative capacity of bionomes in order to make their own modifications. So, do they sometimes utilize crop circles? They read them, but they don't have a tendency of sharing the information. They're not exactly the most, shall we say, sociable individuals. Okay, but are they capable of doing it? Certainly. They just have a different outlook on it. And when we start looking at what the Xenon are looking for, frankly, they're looking for weak points. Okay, and since they are part of the Galactic Consortium, now in the Xenon's case, they are literally part of it because it was safer to agree with them than it was to go against the entire armada. Because the Xenon do not have that many ships in the area. And this would not work well. Okay, there are races they won't deal with, but as far as humans go, you can bet your bottom dollar. And this is something I was thinking about the other day. If humans ever get computers to work properly as AI, that would be an absolute instant doorway for the Xenon. And if you think AI can create a problem, it's nothing compared to what the Xenon can do. Now, this said, tied into some of when you start looking at the global rotational impact of the crop circles, there is information there on some of the gear that may be necessary down the road. And this is why, with humans taking pictures of the crop circles, and they're storing them, like the governments are storing this information, and the researchers are, on computers. Well, down the road, and this is something that I don't think they're thinking of right now, when the human race becomes part of the consortium, the human race will already have the entire database that's available and be able to really look at it and utilize it in a much more efficient fashion than even what most of the off-worlders can do. One of the other things we have to look at is crop circles, because they are temporally aligned, and I do mean time aligned. You do not go back in time. You don't go forward in time with it. You simply look at them and compare when they got here in relationship to when others do. But because they are aligned in that fashion, there is a lot of extrapolatory information that can be brought about. But it's going to take some time to piece it together. Mankind hasn't got the equipment yet to pick up on the information. Okay. I mean, yes, we already have the ability to check different light and different levels of light density. Absolutely, we do. Okay. We also have the technology to check the impact on a micro unit. I don't know what the actual unit's called. Okay. Of temperature change based on gravitational impact. Okay. They've already got this technology. They just don't realize that it's something that can be used to that end. Okay. Oddly enough, these are things that will come out probably 100 years down the road at my current calculation. I'm hoping I'm wrong. Okay. I mean, I remember somebody sent me a picture of an artifact they'd been handed the schematics to. Went, what the heck is this? So I just spat it out. It's like, here it is. It's like, where the heck did you get that? I said, well, I've seen them before. Now, Ferret is asking, do crop circles occur other places? There we go. Occur other places other than the UK? Yes, they do. It's just most other places won't tell you about it. I do know for a certainty. Now, again, I don't go researching, but I know that they have shown up in not South Africa, but Southern Africa. Okay, they've shown up on the Serengeti Plains. They've even shown up in the United States and Canada. Okay, don't ask me to quote locations. I've never researched it. I just happen to know it's there. And they still serve the same purpose. So we're absolutely looking at a phenomenon that is not just localized to one area. It's just they seem to have gotten the money. The big thing is the people in the UK tend to watch for them a lot more. And this is why they stand out so well. Where are we here? The ether or the plasma is the fifth element. You might call it that. Okay. From my standpoint, you've got earth, water, earth, water, fire, and life. Now you may call the life force ether. Okay. It's not so much the fifth element as the fourth one, because water and air are the same element. Look at the way they react. Okay, look at the patterns that they impact. But you are correct. The ether is something that by any name is another element that people aren't paying attention to and that humans tend to overlook. And yet, amazingly enough, they rely on it. I will be so happy when I actually get my replacement glasses so I can read what I'm looking at. But I take a look at the energy because for me, I look at the first thing I look at when I do see them, and when somebody does send me a photo of a crop circle, is I look at the impact above what it is, above the actual physical side. Okay. Because it doesn't always impact in one solid thumb. Sometimes, especially with circles, you'll have a pinpoint impact and then they widen the scope. Okay, making it so much easier for them to put it down properly.
We're at 10 minutes.
We are at 10 minutes. Bonus. Appreciate the heads up. Thanks very much, Kira. I'll tell you, for me, because I'm temporally challenged to start with, and that can always be fun. But crop circles are one of these things that is so is so minimally understood, okay, or even theorized or hypothesized about. There are so many elements to it that are being, frankly, in my opinion, ignored. The circumstantial evidence is there, but it's not being researched. Okay, and this is something we have to realize, because once you take when the kinetic impact on a crop circle, it changes the energy. Okay, and this is something that humans don't have the technology to sort out. When you take a gravitonic impact and you hit it broadside with a kinetic impact, it's going to change the layout. But if you've got the right computer system, you can swap it around and put it back together. Okay, so I mean, we are talking about things that go so far beyond what humans are capable of doing. And it's not they don't have the capacity to think it. It's they don't have the technology or the natural instinct to recalibrate. Okay, we've taught ourselves to ignore things or been taught by others. Okay, but it's all there to be understood. It's just a question of whether people are going to open their mind up and let it happen. And somebody out there, I'm certain, is sitting there going, Keith is so full of it. He is so wired. There's no way this is possible. And I thought the same thing myself, but every time I do this, somebody comes along and corroborates what I've been looking at. Oh, Renee, that's bonus. I do hope it goes well. Most of the time, cataract surgery now is usually in today's world, usually pretty safe. Okay, so I do wish you the best of luck with it. Myself, I have a problem trusting doctors, period. And shining a bright light in my eye to make it work better has its own concerns on my part, but then I get panicky around people, never mind doctors. One of the nice parts about the whole crop circle thing is this is a topic and that I'm going to, quite frankly, I'm going to have to take a look at and see if I can figure out how to put it in terms that people get. Because right now, the leaders and the professionals, the scientists that have been studying this stuff have been overlooking, to me, some pretty blatant things, such as the impact of different types of energies on that same field. Okay, but this is one of those things I'm going to have to look at, but I'll do it in point form first and then expand from there. One of the things I do look at is, the other thing that I noticed is some humans have tried emulating them. Okay, humans have tried faking crop circles, and that hasn't worked as well as you might think. And thank you so much, Storm. So, as per usual, we take a look at something here. Whoop, that was the wrong one. There we are. Okay, now, tomorrow, Sunday, Operation Shutdown asked a while back for me to talk about my psychic hotline experiences, because I spent 20 years working on the psychic lines. Okay, we'll be discussing that on Sunday. On Monday, we're going to take a look at the financial side of a truth behind savings. And then we're going to take a look on Tuesday at self-help, how to move forward. Of course, this coming Friday, heads up, I will be on SOR, so we won't have positive perceptions at all. But that said, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. The questions were great. Some of them have got me going down another road to do a little bit of checking in my notes. But I do look forward to seeing you in the very near future. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.